Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for waiting. Sorry for delay. I just added a couple of more videos that I wanted to be included in this recap. Again, thank you for waiting. I saw the chat was going on and folks were chatting. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, James. Good evening. Yeah, you made it. Hello. Hey, James. We have two Jameses. Okay. Welcome. You're here this time. I know your family is giving you a bit more space. Okay. Hi, Steven. Hi, Christine. Hi, Allie. Hi, Steven again. Who else do we have here? Christine. You guys are chatting. Thank you so much for being here. This is our weekly news recap. And so first I will share some thoughts, sort of like an opening type of thing. And then we're going to dive into the main topics this week and also into the latest quick news, national and global news. And then we're going to talk about Greenland, of course, and about Canada and about Russia being behind it all type of thing. Okay? So as always, please comment, please ask questions. I will check on that and answer your questions as we go. All right? Hello. All right. So first things first, I want us to really digest today's news or this week's news from a certain perspective. Not really an angle, but rather a perspective. Which sort of was my thought a couple of days ago. I went on LinkedIn. I'm never on LinkedIn. And there was a business person who just simply posted about praising Secretary Rubio's approach to deporting people. And there was a long thread with other business owners and people, from all kinds of walks of life, commenting and praising and saying, it's a no-brainer, it's great, it's fantastic, make America, blah, blah, blah, right? And I was thinking, if we were in 1930s, right, or rather, if in the 1930s, when the Nazi movement began, what would have happened, and would they be losing so much as they did if we had, or they had at that point, the power of internet and most importantly, social media? I understand that Nazis actually did a lot to improve the accessibility to radio, and people had a radio, they could listen to it, they used it, right? Also, Voice of America and Radio Liberty began, right, to confront or to combat disinformation and Nazi propaganda, right? Those Voice of America and Radio Liberty that Trump is trying to close. Now he cannot because there's a judge's order, but it's all temporarily. So my point is, what we need to understand that the media plays a huge role. It's not just before the election, right? If we really think what did happen to President Biden, you know my stance. If you are connected to me for a bit, you know what I thought about passing the torch and what type of role the media played there. It was an essential role. And media still continues to play the same role. We're not questioning anything. Media, mainstream media with the most access to people, but also the podcasters and people of great influence, right? Are playing stenographers, are not questioning anything. right? We're praising how many executive orders did this president sign. Meanwhile, we're not stating upfront that most of them were actually illegal. We're not questioning anything when it comes to also where do we even get this information? Where did the idea came from to annex a sovereign country of Greenland? And before I said Greenland, maybe you thought of Canada because same thing. Why are we trying to get a hold of Panama Canal? And the problem is that people who are on television, yes, they are journalists, they have journalist degree or whatever, degree in communications or whatnot, but they do not have knowledge nor ability to analyze, right? And it's very rare that when you see, let's say, a table talk of 3 to 5 people on CNN or any other program, that there will be somebody who actually knows history, who actually has studied political science, who actually worked as a diplomat. These people are limited to 30 seconds interviews to comment. Oh my God, was that horrible? Here, you're a former ambassador to Denmark. Tell me, is it horrible? They're like, horrible. Okay, next. And then it's 1 hour of 5 talking heads just sharing their opinion that is based on feelings. So my point is, and if we go back to social media, it is still in your hands to combat disinformation, not by speaking against it if you don't use social media to post things, but to simply use a very useful tool to say, on Instagram, you tap those three bubbles, whatever, the dots, and you say not interested or block this content, right? If you see disinformation, just scrolling past it is not enough because that you saw it, the algorithm will show it to you again. Unless you tap not interested or you block those accounts, right? Don't engage, but really try to work on your algorithm because the algorithm works on you. Now, you don't have this way of coordinating or even influencing what you see when you turn the television on. And for that reason, if you like watching something when there is just opinions being shared, right? And people without knowledge just repeating some type of narrative. And if you keep watching it, even if you disagree, this will brainwash you. So with everything that we're going to talk about tonight, and also from now on and going forward, when you listen to something and you know that this is a bunch of BS, turn it off. Turn it off. Don't consume it as entertainment. Don't consume it as some type of white noise that just helps you to get through the day. Turn music on. Because everything you listen to will ultimately have an effect on you, right? Whether it will brainwash you to think that certain things are true, or it will actually drive your blood pressure so high that it might manifest in something seriously, wrong physically. You don't need that. On social media, block the stuff. Tap, I'm not interested. You are the decision maker on what you do consume. Stop being passive. Because we're talking about why people are not on the street, right? Where people are protesting Tesla all over the world yesterday in 500 cities. And we're going to talk about it. People protested Tesla. They burned cars, whatnot. You don't have to burn cars. Nor you have to record any single video or show your face online. But you can tap not interested, tap spam, disinformation, report it. Be the creator of the algorithm that ultimately has to work for you. Which leads me to another point. What Hitler with Nazis could not achieve, well, they use media as a tool, right? As a propaganda tool. What they perhaps couldn't even imagine at that point is actually turning your media tool into the government itself. Because if you think about it, any leader, whether it is a democratic leader or is a dictator, uses media as a tool, right? It's the loudspeaker, so to speak. But here we have somebody whose world is Fox Entertainment News. And this person, as much as when this person was watching somebody who is a porn person and wanted that porn person to become part of his life, he ordered that person to, grab a magazine and do some slappity slap slap. The same story is if your world is Fox News, now those talking heads came out of television and became part of the surrounding, and surrounding meaning government. Now, how does media work? If I'm scheduled to go, this is my job, not mine, but imagine I'm going on television and I have to talk about something from 9 in the morning till whatever. If there's no news, hey, the editor is going to, or producer is going to tell me, make some news. You got to talk about something, right? And so you do. And so what media never does is it never shuts up. If there is no news, they're going to start making news, right? Now, connect it all to the social media. Then connect the social media to artificial intelligence. And we heard this week that Twitter shitter, X, was bought by XAI, and it varies. Some people say 33 billion, some people say 45 billion. Altogether is overpriced anyway. But what it gives Twitter, right, is gives the ability to take a narrative and use artificial intelligence to produce it, not in such masses as, okay, I'm going to take Grok or whatever that artificial intelligence on Twitter shitter is to produce some, fake pictures or whatever. No, I can produce fake accounts and they will have their narrative and they're going to be tweeting 24/7, right? Have you ever have taken ChatGPT and said, imagine you're a 25-year-old woman. Tell me how your day was. It's going to tell you how the heck that day was. And so be really careful as to what you consume. But back to administration. Now, we have the news media being the government. And so when the government messes up or has no news, it creates the news. When there is a mess up, like a signal gate, a normal type of media, what will they do? Normal media would say, hey, listen, we did not use credible resources. This was a mess up on our end. We are, issuing an apology, or this wasn't true or hasn't been proven to be true, blah, blah, blah, right? Now, we go a step further here. Now we have a media government, but this media government comes from social media and reality television. And the guy at the lead is their big star, is the original reality star. And so what does reality television is, based on? Drama, right? That's why reality television casts these people who will create drama, right? And they're also, if you think about, if you get some information from people who do record it and produce it, they give them, certain type of food or alcohol or whatever, so they go nuts, right? Because that's entertaining. And so that's what this reality television entertainment / government is good at. It's not because they're bad people. We're not talking about that. I don't know them, but it's all they know. And if your resume, we talked about mainstream media, if your resume is just you're a journalist, you're on television, you got to talk about something, that's all you know. You don't know analysis. You haven't studied political science. You have not studied what diplomacy means. So all you know, you do it to your best ability. And then the entertainment government / social media entertainment reality star, that's all they know. And so when you hear about the signal gate and how they addressed it, don't wonder. Don't wonder. It just, why are you wondering? How, oh my God, look at them. They're not prosecuting anybody. Of course not. I will even go that far to say they might even consider this being a good week because it costs so much talking. And media is great in causing something to blow up, to overshadow something that shouldn't be talked about. On that note, let's use this lens to go through the news that did happen this week. All right? So, now, as to when, also to Twitter shitter, I realized that Kardashians, right? When you can hate Kardashians or love them. I never watched this show, but what I know is that their momager, right, the Kris Jenner, she knows where the money is. She smells it, and so they went from Entertainment News to Hulu, and now they're transferring to Twitter shitter. So they launched a podcast for one of their Chloe or whatever. It became the podcast #1. So they're using Twitter shitter to blow up their shows, which shows me that's where the attention will go. Artificially, naturally, does not matter. So what you listen to and consume, really, you have to be careful because that will surround you altogether. Now, also when it comes to Hollywood, now back, think about Nazis and whatnot. Movies played a huge role. Now, what we see is happening to Hollywood, nobody's speaking out, right? Either we hear that people are moving to London or whatever, selling everything off, or, they stop talking about it, right? It's very sort of tone deaf. You go and watch the movies and it doesn't address things. Or you go the De Niro route and you create the 0-day movie, which you can't, I don't know about you, but I can't even consume because it's so much like the reality that I'm like, oh my God, I live in this. I don't need to watch this. This is like a mirror, right? But this fella is going to go into Hollywood now, right? So here, Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg team up with EM to launch a $3 billion unvogue film empire committed to traditional family values. Now, this is a question for, for everyone. Who is out of three is here traditional family values? Who? What are those? Maybe 15 plus kids is the traditional. Anyway, so, but getting so much into politics has actually played a massive role in Musk's fortune, right? Which is heavily dependent on Tesla. And he went on Twitter. He also went on television and cried. And then ultimately he said, the goal is of the left is to destroy my influence. So they relentlessly push negative propaganda about me, like the fake Nazi stuff, and ignore anything positive. They're evil. I still remember your salute because you did it twice. The left making up, huh? And also when you say you're trying to destroy my influence, which is sort of you're admitting that you do have the influence on this administration. So we just, anyway. Now, as an example, I told you when media has no news, they make news. And here comes RFK Jr., who fired a bunch of people, 10,000 people to be exact, who got rid of the head of FDA, who talked about vaccines so badly that so many people are starting quitting too, who just still does not address that we have more than 340, I think 343 measles cases now. And it's just, like, nobody addresses that because why would you even talk about it? But what he planted is this, and Axios reported this first. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. plans to put the governor of West Virginia on a diet. Kennedy said, I'm going to put him on a really rigorous regime. We're going to put him on a carnivore diet. Well, did you check his cholesterol or anyway? He added, raise your hand if you want governor to do a public weigh. Just weigh him once a month. Then when he's lost 30 pounds, I'm going to come back in the state and do a celebration and do it all in public once again together. This is just to prove the point. When you hire media people, you can hire them to fix your bathroom. Yeah, you can try it. All they're going to do is issue press releases about your bathroom. They're not going to fix it. They don't know how. It's not in their toolkit. They're going to talk about your bathroom. So now they're leading the government. Also, of course, the Signal Gate. And you guys have probably heard about it, of course, right? It was on Signal. A reporter, actually the chief editor of The Atlantic, was added to Signal chat where Hexeth, and he was added by Waltz, our national security advisor, who then saw it, said, I don't know how the number got into my phone, yada, yada, yada. And Hexeth started sharing classified information as to what will hit Yemen and when. Okay, in short. Now, if you have a media person and hacks at this, Sunday Fox News host, will they apologize? No, because it's entertainment. It's a provocative. It creates buzz, right? That's what we know. Buzz. Yeah. So he was on his tour. Well, it's actually an annual tour to Philippines, Thailand, Guam, and Japan for our defense minister to go yearly. So he was on this tour, and then he started blaming that the Atlantic chief editor is a scum, and pretty much you're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist, blah, blah, blah. Nobody apologized today because why? Now, if you do think if Department of Justice will investigate these people, no, not really, because here's Pam Bondi, our Secretary General.
In terms of the signals chat controversy that's going on, is DOJ involved at this point? If so, why? If not, why not?
Well, first, it was sensitive information, not classified, and inadvertently released. And what we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission. Our world is now safer because of that mission. We're not going to comment any further on that. If you want to talk about classified information, talk about what was at Hillary Clinton's home that she was trying to bleach bit. Talk about the classified documents in Joe Biden's garage that Hunter Biden had access to. This was not classified information. And we are very pleased with the results of that operation and that the entire world is safer because of it.
They told you, right? Are we questioning this now? No, this is a normal response. And so then everybody else started saying essentially the same thing. They don't know how it happened, what it happened. Here's some examples. Take a look.
I mean, to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
Not when we were talking about bombing Yemen. Loser? Who's the loser here? Anyway, I overreacted. But some people might even say that whatever we're experiencing here, this reality show on our dime, is something that people are allegedly jealous of. Can you believe it?
I mean, where would this administration be, obviously, without President Trump, but also without him?
Yeah.
They make great people.
They make an amazing team.
But
you've got to have a great disruptor in President Trump, that he has the will to go through it. I'm telling you, when I travel the world, they're jealous of what's happening.
Oh, of course, but they're also...
James says, I made a mistake of turning on CNN earlier this week when they had their roundtable talk. It's quickly reminding me why I stopped watching after election. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a talking heads. Nobody knows. They're talking heads. And you have 5 talking heads. That's it. Nobody is a historian. Nobody is a professional in anything but journalism, which is talking or reporting, whatever. Not that I think that all are even professional in that. Anyway, Stephen says listening to the administration in every format was nauseating. Yeah, exactly. It's a signal gate. Exactly. And I mean, just that's all they know. And so for that reason, what I'm trying to explain is try to not calm yourself down, but try to take it as is, right? When you hire this person with this background, expect this to happen. That's all they know. And now they're also zhuzhed up and motivated to do whatever they can, which is, if you were to hire somebody to damage your bathroom, going back to your bathroom and fixing, who would have more guts to damage, right? To cause damage, just to break everything, right? Somebody who has no clue about plumbing or has never, fixed the bathroom, nor even cares about you, your bathroom, the world, blah, right? Maybe even somebody who is beloved on television for screaming and damaging things, right? And so they are in their element, damaging, screaming, causing drama, lying. That's it. They're professional in it. more than you and I, all combined. If anything, it wasn't under reaction. It was a lie. I mean, it was not correct. It was a classified information. If I would have shared it, or Stephen, you would have shared it, we would have been somewhere under the jail at this point. You know, I just remember, when I covered NATO as recent as a few months ago. And when you enter, they take away even your watch that has Bluetooth function on it, because then people can take it. Also, they take your Oura rings or anything where people can check your blood pressure and your heartbeat, because if your heartbeat goes up, it means you're nervous. And so people can use that to their advantage, right? Same thing was at the UN. You can't even bring anything but paper and pen into the room, into negotiating room, like room where things are negotiated, so here, using the phone for that, it's a big issue to even, or it's a big task rather, to take classified information from a very different device and bring it to your phone where you can put it into a chat, on Signal. It's a process. You don't screenshot things. Those are on different devices. They're not accessible even in the rooms where your normal devices are there, So for that reason, there's so much that was actually done for this chat to occur that I wish we did have an investigation for everybody to understand, and for me also to learn what the process was for that to even come together. It wasn't that easy, So, okay. What else do we have here on this note? What is that?
Боїться,
Wrong video. Okay. But we're going to talk about it soon. All right. So ultimately, Trump was on NBC News, and then he said that he will not fire anyone involved in this group chat, and that they disclosed some plans on airstrikes, but it was not anything special nor something to worry about, and everything was fantastic, blah, blah, blah. Right? Okay. Then in the background, it was actually shared that he asked his aides whether he should fire Waltz, and the talk of the town was no, and then he didn't fire him. Now let's see how actually elected lawmakers reacted to this. And here's just an example from this questioning that went for over 2 days. And here's Asa. Take a look.
Director Radcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct?
No.
A national political...
Hold on.
No, you
Let me
hold
answer.
on. No,
The
Director
answer- the
Radcliffe,
reason
I
I
asked
say
you a yes or
no-
no question, and now you hold on. A national political reporter
You can characterize it how you want.
was made privy
The White
to
House has
sensitive
made
information
clear
about
that there
imminent
was an
military
inadvertent
operations against a
mistake,
foreign terrorist
inadvertent
organization.
mistake of adding a reporter.
And that wasn't a huge
to a
mistake?
seal.
That wasn't a huge mistake?
Well, I think they characterize
This is
it as
an
a mistake.
embarrassment. This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error. And by the way, we will get the full transcript of this chain, and your testimony will be measured carefully against its content. Thank you, Mr.
And then the full testimony was shared, right? The Atlantic went one step further, shared the full chat. I shared it. You saw it probably, right? If you haven't seen it, I recorded a whole video showing it to you. Now, so this is how the lawmakers are reacting. They're alarmed. So we now have the government, which is social media, reality star entertainment based. And we saw actually the lawmakers were an example of such. And then we have the business people. Now, how does business person's mindset work? Especially if you do have a publicly traded company. You want to exaggerate your results, right? So your shares will be more expensive. So your wealth is going to go up. It's very dependent on the PR that you get. Hence, those who go far, right, far into the lying, then they get prosecuted. Like the girl who was talking about, this great result to come up soon to test, the blood test, right? And many others, right? Many of them are in jail. Some of them have been pardoned this week by President Trump. this aside. Now, one biggest person from the business world that is at the White House is, of course, Musk. And so how is his reaction? His reaction is to blame the media, to blame the left, to blame everybody for bringing this to everybody's attention. Essentially, it was the Atlantic's choice, right? But then he went one step further, starting to blame those elected lawmakers, which I just showed you an example of, who were questioning what the hell is happening, right? And the lawmakers are also questioning what is happening with our foreign policy, right? We stopped helping people to combat disease with the thought that if that disease is contained in Africa, it will not come to us. So we stopped this. We stopped even monitoring the kids from Ukraine that have been stolen, abducted by Russians and then adopted. So we're not doing any of that, right? Rubio said, okay, we haven't deleted this data, but we have defunded the program. Okay, good. Thank God. Well, counting my blessings. But Elon Musk gave an interview. Of course, it's one of the Fox News, Newsmax, whatever channels, right? It's the first time today, which actually was sort of a surprise, where Trump went on NBC News, right? Everything was very ultra MAGA. And so he gives this interview where he defends his idea of blaming Kelly, right, this elected official, for being a traitor, right? Somebody who went to space, who has achieved so much for his country, who has certainly participated in the Kamala Harris campaign, was even considered to run or to be selected as VP candidate. And so he defends his point that Mark Kelly should be seen as a traitor. And here's why. Now, when you watch this video, think about that this person is unelected, unofficial, commenting on something he has absolutely no background in, nor say.
You give it out, in other words. Democratic Arizona Senator Mark Kelly posted on X about his trip to Ukraine to push for continuing to send U.S. weapons and support there, and you posted that he was a traitor. Well, why do that?
Well, I think somebody should care about the interests of the United States above the interests of another country. And if they don't, they're a traitor.
Yeah, but he's a decorated veteran, a former astronaut, a sitting U.S. senator.
That doesn't mean it's okay for him to put the interests of another country above America.
Obviously, there are some Republicans who think supporting Ukraine is the right thing still, but there is a battle back and forth about how do you think it comes to an end?
Well, I think there will be a negotiated peace, and the thing that we should be concerned about is we should have empathy for the thousands of people that are dying every day in trenches, for no movement.
First of all, who was tortured in the background? And if this is one of your children, why didn't you get your butt up and help that little fella that was crying for help? That's a bit of a question. If you wondered, that wasn't me screaming. It was somebody. XYZ, probably. Anyway, unelected, unofficial, calling Mark Kelly a traitor because he speaks about caring about Ukraine, not calling it a ceasefire when the aggressor keeps killing civilians. And we're going to get to that. All of that causes anxiety. Let's take a break from that. Now, let's talk about tariffs. We're going to come back to all of this, right? I'm guiding you through. I have a point. We talked about the big talk was, of course, about the signal gate, and then we progressed talking about tariffs, because at some point Trump decided to just call up a conference at 4 p.m. Eastern and just say that, yes, the tariffs, in addition to everything else that he planned for April 2nd, which is next week, he also will impose 25% tariffs on all autos and parts, which is a crazy thing to do. His explanation is that it will cause companies to build more in the United States, which obviously is nonsense, because some parts come from different countries, then everything is assembled here, or it crosses the border up to 7 times, for instance, if we talk about Canada, right? And speaking about Canada, This is somebody who is my person of the week, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada. I know the election is set for April 28th, but he's my person of the year because I react to him. He's like my bottle of Valium. I listen to him a couple of times a day, and I'm like, okay, there's smart people in this world. Huzzah! Okay, great. Anyway, before even the tariffs were announced, because this was sort of pre-announced the day before, Mark Carney, already addressed Canadians saying that we will fight it, whatever come our way, we'll fight it. Then the tariffs were announced to take place on April 2nd, which is, again, it's not just against Canada. It's about it's set on any products, any cars or parts that are coming to United States from a foreign country. So yes, it does affect domestic manufacturers, right? Like Ford, for instance, or General Motors, which then Trump's team said, oh, those are actually not American anymore, which was like a crazy thing to say, but anyway. But also, expensive cars that come from Germany, like BMW and Audi and Porsche and whatnot. They, on their end, they said that they will just raise pricing. They don't care about producing more in the United States. If somebody wants German car, pay more, you'll get it, right? And so then the tariffs are announced, and Mark Carney takes the stage to announce that whatever the relationship was with the United States is over. And he talks about tariffs. But I want you to pay attention to something else that he also mentions, because it's very crucial and important. Take a look.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over. What exactly the United States does next is unclear. But what is clear is that we, as Canadians, have agency. We have power. We are masters in our own home. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. We can control our destiny. We can give ourselves much more than any foreign government, including the United States, can ever take away. We can deal with this crisis best by building our strength right here at home. It will take hard work. It will take steady and focused determination from governments, from businesses, from labor, from Canadians. We will need to dramatically reduce our reliance on the United States. We will need to pivot our trade relationships elsewhere. And we will need to do things previously thought impossible at speeds we haven't seen in generations.
Did you catch it? He talked about tariffs, but what he also said that we will end our reliance on American military assistance, which is crucial because we do have that sort of agreement, right? Canada sends forces mainly to train NATO forces in Eastern Europe. And for that, U.S. is protecting Canada, especially when we talk about the Arctic, especially when we talk about even the northern part of Canada, right? Which is of great importance and interest for Putin. And we're going to talk about that soon. And I'm going to show you the video of Putin talking about it. Now, what this means, if you dive into it, ending the reliance on military assistance from U.S. means less intelligence sharing, means not counting for U.S. to protect Canada, means to also strengthen your borders and get essentially on high alert because U.S. is your direct neighbor and the only one neighbor that shares the border. To keep in mind. Also, what he did say, he said, I understand what President Trump does not. We love our country with every fiber of our being. We will unite, defend, and look out for each other. Every dollar collected from the tariffs that Canada will impose on American products in return will go to supporting Canadian workers. Now, Carney also said that Trump hasn't contacted him at that point, but they will be speaking soon, which did happen the next day. Now, a very important phrase that he did say, which I really liked, he said, I take note of President Trump's comments, but I do not take direction from it. And this came in response to a question about Trump's tweet. Where do I have that? Here, right? No. Was it this one? Yes. If the European Union works with Canada in order to do economic harm to USA, large-scale tariffs, far larger than currently planned, will be placed on them, both in order to protect the best friend, blah, blah, blah. He's everybody's best friend. The problem is that Carney didn't really care much to even address this. The next day, yes, he did call at 10 in the morning. He did call Trump as promised. Now, this is Trump's readout. He says, I just finished speaking with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. It was an extremely productive call. We agree on many things and will be meeting immediately after Canada's upcoming election to work on elements of politics, business, and all other factors that will end up being great for both the United States of America and Canada. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, this is Carney's readout. Today, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, spoke with the President of the United States, Trump. The Prime Minister and the President had a very constructive conversation about the relationship between our two countries. The leaders agreed to begin comprehensive regulations about a new economic and security relationship immediately following the election. Meanwhile, the leaders agreed that conversations between the Minister of International Trade and Intergovernmental Affairs and President of the King's Privy Council for Canada. So anyway, they're going to talk with Howard Lutnick, essentially the tariff guy for Trump. The Prime Minister told the President that he would be working hard for the next month to earn the right to represent Canada in those discussions. Essentially, he's talking about the election. The Prime Minister informed the President that his government will implement the tariffs, right, to protect Canadian workers and our economy, following the announcement of additional U.S. trade, blah, blah, blah, right? So essentially, what it drives to that what we're seeing here is that Mark Carney did not play ball with Trump, right? He did not call him to try to smother him or, try to lower the tariffs or whatever. He said, look, you said this, whatever, I take it as, as is, and this is what I'm going to do. And you will better respect us as a sovereign country, and what type of relationship we can have based on your actions. Then the rumor is that Trump is at Mar-a-Lago this weekend. He is bombarded by folks in auto industry. Wall Street, it dropped over 700 points, right? Friday. And so he was seeking to even talk with Carney more, but nothing came from Carney's side. Again, this is a rumor. It's allegedly. I'm not in that room, nor you, that we can say it is for sure. But that is what's leaking out of Mar-a-Lago. Okay, so that's what I said, when you listen to Carney, it's like my, personal bottle of Valium, because it's a person who does not come from the media world. Yes, it's a banker. Yes, it's an economist. He doesn't even come from political world. So politics is a different beast than diplomacy or, of course, economic relations. And especially if you are a banker, everything you say and everything you do, you have to account for drastic consequences. So for that reason, it's very careful, it's carefully phrased, it's carefully thought out, it's decisive, it's logic, and hence it's calming us because it is professional person doing what he knows best. And it's the best person to address the needs right now for Canada. Now, on the other hand, in Canada, we're talking about the election, is this guy who's now copying Elon Musk and carrying his kid on his head. His wife has spoken today. I listened to it. It's very MAGA-esque, right? It has everything that MAGA likes. Also, people wear the MAGA hats there now, too. Anyway, it makes no sense because since it's Canada, it's a MACA maybe. Anyway, they talk, this guy comes from politics. On his end, he has absolutely, today we talk about resumes a lot, right? Our CVs. This guy comes from politics, so he knows what slogans. So his slogan this week was less suits or no suits, more boots. Maybe tomorrow it will be no shams, like, slam bam, thank you, ma'am, something, right? Because the politicians work in slogans. It has to sound, it has to be short, it has to be impactful, it has to make little sense, but people will remember it, right? On our end, it was on Democratic side, or Make America Great Again is a slogan, right? We all remember it. On the Democratic side, if you think about Kamala Harris, it was when we fight, we win. I hope we did and would have continued, but on the other side. So he comes from politics. Now, how does the election, or if the election were to happen today, how it would look like? It's actually the lead for liberals is growing. If you see that in the previous election in 2021, they had 160 seats, and now the prognosis goes this far to say that they might get 190. And then the conservatives, that the Maple MAGA, they're at 125, right? And 119 was the previous one. So who's losing a lot is the new Democratic Party, right? The NDP, the orange one, which had 25 seats, is now will have prognosed half to 6, right? But again, what I want to encourage all Canadians to do is not to relax, because just take it from us. We thought that we have such well-attended rallies. We also had Republicans speaking for Harris, right? And we had the momentum. And then the election happened, whether it was truthful, whether it was, helped by somebody, who knows? But the result was not what people hoped for. So keep fighting, keep putting the information out. Now, here's a clip of somebody, and I have to read it because this is not my... first, what I want to show you is that also Trump said this week that Canada is the nastiest country to deal with. And so to keep us Americans entertained, since we're talking about Canada, here's a little sort of fact check as to how nasty is Canada towards America. So let's remember 9/11.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. They give us nothing.
One of the brightest lights after the darkness of 9/11 came from a remote town.
Nearly 7,000 passengers and crew members suddenly found themselves landing in the tiny town of Gander in Newfoundland.
They didn't have to do what they did for us. They could have just looked the other way, but they didn't.
Canadians are joining the fight against the LA wildfires.
Crews from Canada rushed in to help and are making a considerable effort.
Canada has secretly helped 6 American diplomats escape from Iran.
The idea that Canada is only taking from the United States is fundamentally wrong.
When the U.S. went into Afghanistan, Canada was stationed in one of the most dangerous areas.
We would never forget what they had done for us.
So I want to ask Democratic Party in the United States, go buy that goddamn commercial. Run it. You can't phrase yourself for the past 69 days. Can you believe it? Today is 69th day of this. Don't tell Musk he'll tweet memes about it. Nasty memes. Anyway, take it. Use it as your whatever. Show it on television. People will resonate with that. People try to buy Canadian. In the last, yesterday's weekly recap, the second one on Canada edition, I put how you can buy Canadian products if you're in US, if you're in Canada, or whatnot. So check it out. So put this, use it, address something that resonates with people. Talk about it. We're also about to lose Social Security, Medicaid. Talk about that a lot on television. You ran a lot of commercials during the election. Continue. Then people will donate this $3 to $10 that you're asking for every day on email. At least, But what's interesting when we talk about Canadian election is that campaign manager for Ontario Conservative Premier Doug Ford, right, who's very pro-MAGA, but he confronted Trump about the tariffs and said, I'm going to shut down electricity for New York and essentially East Coast, or I will double the price or increase the price, right? And so his campaign manager, who actually managed to win him the election for 3 times, right, the provincial election, he revealed that Canada's National Federal Conservative leader, this PP, Pierre Poilievre, the one that has the kid now on the head, like Musk, is on pace to lose his own Ottawa area riding of Carleton. So take a look. They have a better way to describe the situation. So take a listen.
This has been the most spectacular reversal of fortunes, I think, in modern Canadian political history by a lot. You know, when you go from 25 up in Ontario to 15 down in the space of, what is it, like 10 weeks, you know, if you look at where they sort of stalled out and when it started to decline, it's a spectacular decline. And, I got polling information, almost 2 weeks ago, because we're in the field every week, showing that. And I had Nick repeat the poll and ask some more questions, because I didn't want to pull the fire alarm in the case that you're in the 19th out of, the 20th out of the 19 out of 20 polls and something's off. And what came back was even worse than the initial poll was. When you're like 27 points down in Ottawa, that means your leader isn't winning a seat.
No way. This guy, that's him campaigning. Remember JD Vance and donuts? Take a look.
Want cheese? Just mushroom? Oh, it's okay. That's okay. We got another one.
Misfire.
Gracious. But jokes aside, this video, I double checked it. This woman actually had this experience. It has been reported by others. It's a 6-minute video. Let's see how long we stick with it. But this is what ICE has done to a Canadian citizen crossing the border. Here's her story.
I'm a Canadian and I have a Canadian passport. I always did have. And yesterday I was stopped by a CBP custom border officer. And I've been questioned for 7 hours and about 6 to 7 hours. So I just want to share my experience. I'm Canadian. I was on my way to my friend's 50th birthday. And when I crossed the border, the US border, the man took away my passport and said to sit down. So I sat down. There wasn't really that many people. 2 people arrived before me, and they kind of were called before me, but pretty much I was alone all this time. And I asked how long it's going to take. My flight is in 3 hours. And they're like, listen, there's nothing we can do. So eventually, after sitting there for an hour, a lady calls me. Her name is Judith Emmanuel. A lady calls me, and she doesn't really say. She just questioned me. She says, what is your what is your name? What is your date of birth? What's the reason of you going to Las Vegas? I was going there because it was my friend's birthday and I have a ticket back on Monday. So I was going there on Thursday to come back on Monday. And so I just give her, and then she starts, what is your social media account? And what is your OnlyFans account? And I'm like, I don't have an OnlyFans account. I don't, and I never did have. So for the first 4 hours that she was questioning me, and then she took my phone, she started going through my messages and questioning me about my messages. And I did cooperate because I really hoped that I was going to make it to my friend's birthday. It's been planned for like half a year at least. And she goes through my phone, she questions me about stuff, and she keeps pushing about me being abused, or that my boyfriend is pimping me, and she kept giving me books about my lover, my aggressor, and like as if I've been aggressed. I have no idea how she did that. So where she took that assumption. I'm in a really beautiful long-term relationship, and so I'm not exactly sure why this lady, Judith Emmanuel, was questioning me as if I was an escort. I've never been an escort. I'm not planning to be an escort. I don't have anything against it, but it's just there's nothing that proved that. So she asked me for my phone. I gave her my phone, and she said, I'm just going to go look through it really quickly so that you will be able to take your plane. And the only reason that you won't be able to take your flight is if I find in your phone that there's a boom threat. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, just take my phone. I'm just really excited to go see my boyfriend. There's a misunderstanding about me having an O account. And yeah, so she took away my phone. She left for an hour. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my passport. I didn't have a watch, and there was no watch. So I was just waiting and bawling my eyes because I'm like, oh. Yeah, it was quite intense. It was a lot of personal questions about my relationship with my family, it's just mind-boggling how much privacy was breached in that conversation. And I cried. I was scared. So she comes back with my phone, and basically I ask her, what time is it? She's like, oh, you missed your flight. I have questions to ask you. She went through my phone. She went through... listen, I'm an open person. I have naked photos in my phone. She went through my naked photos. She asked, oh, who is this person in your naked video? And it was my boyfriend. And then and then she kind of still kept pushing the scenario that I was an escort, which I am totally not. And finally, she was questioning me about text messages, specific text messages. She was asked, I had my phone number since the age of 18. So I've had it for 18 years now.
Anyway, this thing goes for 6 minutes, and I'll share the whole thing with you. But essentially, she would not let in, and she missed a flight, and then she was labeled. They put a stamp that she's an escort. She's going to Vegas to work as an escort, which she claims she's not, and that her boyfriend is pimping her out, which she claims again she's not. My question is this: whether anybody has OnlyFans account or is an escort, it's a Canadian citizen going to Vegas and has a return ticket, has hotel booked and has a return ticket. What does your job entail that you have to go into somebody's phone and check their photos and question their naked photos or whatever? I don't do such thing, but maybe somebody does. Who cares? Isn't America the land of the free? Isn't America the democratic, liberal country? No, not really. Now, jokes aside, a lot of countries have issued a travel advisory. And here's the latest ones. Of course, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Netherlands, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and Norway have issued travel advisory. Why? Here's a video from Washington Post as to what to expect when you do cross the border if you desire to do so.
If you're traveling internationally soon, you may want to brush up on your phone privacy rights. In recent weeks, some travelers have reported having their personal devices and social media accounts checked by officers at U.S. border crossings like airports. Here's what to know about your rights. First, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol officers can search your phone regardless of your immigration status. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can refuse to unlock your device for an agent and still be let into the country, although you could have your device seized or be detained. Foreign nationals may be denied entry into the United States if they don't allow a search. There are 2 types of searches, basic and advanced. In a basic search, an officer may scroll through your phone. An advanced search can only be done if there is reasonable suspicion that you've broken the law. An officer may connect your device to an external piece of equipment that will review or copy the contents of your device. You should tell the officer conducting your search if you have any information on your phone that is legally protected. And if your device is taken, you should ask the officer for a custody receipt, which will have instructions on how to get your device back.
I would rather say think twice or 3 times, 4 times the lady, if you want to do this. That's one thing. Now, if you're on green card or on a visa and you are inside US and you want to travel and come back, it is very much recommended to take some type of phone that you don't normally use, or at least delete the apps, right? Also, to keep in mind, from a lot of people who have gone through those searches, they say that the device that it is connected to the phone also shares all the photos that have been recently deleted from your phone, even if you deleted it from the deleted folder. And that's what they pay attention to. That's how the I think it was a guy from India who is a student, and he has a green card or a student visa. At least he's legally here, and he had some photos from a Palestinian protest, and he deleted them. They found it on the phone in the deleted folder, and hence labeled him Hamas supporter. So for that reason, just think a lot. Also, there is, again, I will not dive into it because we don't know it for a fact, that they're talking about denaturalizing citizens whose political views are not aligning with the current administration. When we know something is being put in motion rather than just talks, I will talk about it, and that certainly does concern a lot of people, including moi. Okay, so when we talk about Canada and Greenland, we're going to go into Greenland next, but let's talk about why. Where does this all come from? Here's Putin speaking at the International International Arctic Forum, where he announced that he is pretty much investing a lot in military also presence and equipment in the Arctic. And so there, you will have to read the subtitles now. It's in Russian with English dubbed subtitles. Take a listen as to what he said about Trump acquiring Greenland. Take a look.
Достаточно сказать, все об этом хорошо знают, о планах Соединенных Штатов Америки по присоединению Гренландии. Но вы знаете, это только на первый взгляд может кого-то удивить. И глубоко ошибочно полагать, что это какие-то экстравагантные разговоры новой американской администрации. Ничего подобного. На самом деле, такие планы у Соединенных Штатов Америки проявились еще в 60-е годы XIX века. Уже тогда американская администрация рассматривала возможность аннексии Гренландии и Исландии. Но эта идея не получила тогда поддержку Конгресса.
Of course, America tried to buy Greenland for, I think it was 7-point-something million, then $400 million, and then it didn't work each time. Okay. Now, flip it 180. When he says about, especially this, later in that video, he says, President Trump's plan to seize Greenland is serious, has deep historical roots, and it is evident that the U.S. will pursue it systematically, meaning the essentially first level of acquisition is to use propaganda. Right? Some folks in Greenland are trying to be or gain independence from Denmark. They want to be sort of deciding over their future and seek independence. Even though these people have been elected who actually do seek independence, they don't want to be bought or acquired by the United States, to put this into perspective. But if Greenland were to seize any connection to Denmark, they don't have protection. And they do already have a military base that was put out during World War II and or after to pretty much protect Greenland from Soviet Union, but also to intercept anything that might come from Soviet Union, right? So essentially, if Greenland were to be misinformed into believing that U.S. will give that protection without affecting Greenland's ability and liberty to decide on how they want to live their life. This is what Putin is talking about as to they will pursue it systematically. Same way as Putin did with Crimea. That's how he took over. He created a sham election. First of all, they brainwashed people that they're first Russian and they're not Ukrainian. And then the Russian, then they gave everybody Russian passports. Then they had a fake election, and they decided, thanks to this referendum, that they want to be away from Ukraine, right? So essentially, there were no shots fired, but Crimea was seized this way. And that's what Putin knows. And he certainly, if he has not yet, he will pass his knowledge to those who are interested, right, at the White House. Then he says, and it's a bilateral issue between the US and Denmark and has no bearing on Russia. Now, this you have to flip 180, because anything Moscow says is actually true if you flip it upside down, right? He also said, our biggest fears are NATO's repeated threats to us in the northern region. It's made up. There is no threats. Yes, Finland and Sweden have joined NATO because why? Because Putin invaded Ukraine. You made them join NATO. You caused this aggression you're talking about. Especially, he says, powered by new members, Finland and Sweden. Russia has never threatened anyone. It just kills civilians in masses. I have a video for you. Daily. But we will strengthen our position in the Arctic. How will he do it? Through Greenland. Now, this is my opinion, okay? Opinion. All right? Don't say it's my opinion or my guesstimation based on working in diplomacy, working in Security Council, seeing Lavrov, listening to these people, digesting, analyzing. Yeah? So what I guesstimate will happen is if US were to take control of Greenland one way or the other, they will then say that it will make sense to unite with Russia to be jointly protecting each other against China. Please. It's so obvious, same way as the minerals deal, right? Russia or US buys the minerals from Ukraine and they say, oh my God, but there is no infrastructure. We can't dig it. We can't do anything. And then Russia says, okay, I'm going to give you 500 billion, honey. Whatever whatever you wanted from Ukraine, $100 billion plus 4%, I'm going to give it to you. Let me dig the minerals. Let me do the dirty work. I'm just going to give you money. And Russia owns everything in Ukraine. It's obvious. Might sound shocking, but now, been telling you that Russia is the reason behind Canada and Greenland, the same way as he's telling you, Putin tells you, they want to strengthen their position in the Arctic. How the hell will they do it without additional space to strengthen their position in the Arctic? Now, why is he doing it? Putin plays a role, well, he's sitting between two seats, so to speak. He's relying on China to support his invasion of Europe at this point, right? It's Ukraine, and then now Lithuania is prognosed to be invaded in September. Poland has put literally tanks on the border with, I'm going to remember in a second. So anyway, with the border with Russia, essentially. And so they got out of the Ottawa Agreement. The Baltic states have, and Poland, they're mining their borders. And Poland literally is putting tanks at the border with the letter X, right? And this was shared today heavily. So it is not a threat. It is an actual vivid threat, right? It's an ability for Russia to go further. So he needs China. On the other hand, Putin is very much dependent on China. He does not like it because China is interested in taking back the Manchuria, the territory How do you know something is true? I have full bars with my internet connection. Full, like all 5 bars. I have full internet connection. And then it tells me that there was a copyright issue, and then I'm streaming on YouTube and X, so either of them has pulled some trigger or whatever. That's how you know when we talk about something like that. It usually happens when I talk about China. Anyway, let's continue talking about China. Let's see if anything else happens. China. So where was I? Anyway, so my point is, for Putin, he needs to balance this relationship with Xi, right? If he is heavily relying on Xi's support to satisfy his ambitions in Europe, he also needs leverage, and leverage is installing Musk into the White House to keep sort of the talk, as we do everything to combat China, right? We put the tariffs on China, but then in reality, it's the lowest tariff possible, and then it's waived, right? Then, we're going to put all our equipment into Indo-Pacific because we're going to focus now on combating China, right? There is no real threat, but we're going to put all our resources out of NATO, out of Europe to Indo-Pacific to combat China, because China is so dangerous, right? Meanwhile, there's in China, okay, is playing along, is doing some exercises near Australia and saying, okay, boo, we can be really scary. Meanwhile, if they were to be willing to take over Taiwan, they could do it in 2 weeks, right? Just close the ports. It's an island. So, but the rhetoric is, we're doing everything now to combat China. This is the biggest threat. And now connected to the talks about the Arctic. Putin says we have to strengthen our blah, blah, blah. Trump says we have, and J.D. Vance said this week, we have legitimate, proof that Russia and China is interested in Greenland. And so we're zhuzhing up with Moscow. We're lifting on sanctions on Russia to unite in our fight against Russia. And that's where Canada and Greenland comes in. Try to understand the point, and that is the Putin's leverage on Xi, right? The point is, I'm gonna keep Trump contained, so he's not gonna do anything to you, and for that you help me with my European stuff. I'm explaining it in very simplistic terms. So, okay. Having said that, yeah, James, you said show us. They have the proof, show us. Where are they going to say, we're getting intelligence that the Arctic is blah, blah, blah. Now, what I wanted to talk about some videos. Okay, let's watch some videos about the Greenland thing. So here's Trump talking about Greenland at the Oval Office on Friday. Take a look.
Right now, do you have plans to expand U.S. military presence in Greenland? Is that...
We get along very well with Greenland. We get along very well with Denmark. We've always had a good relationship. Denmark does a lot of business in the United States. We don't do so much there, but they do a lot of business in the United States. And I think I think everybody wants to see that work out. We need Greenland, very importantly, for international security. We have to have Greenland. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can't. If you look at Greenland right now, if you look at the waterways, you have Chinese and Russian ships all over the place.
And James, to your point, show us, right? Roll up the thing and say, okay, this is where the ships are. This is where the threat is. We don't see it, right? Then people from Greenland, actually reporters that are accredited, they say we don't see anything. Our intelligence says there is no threat. But all of this is done to then say we need to unite with Russia together against the big, dangerous China. See, he's not interested in the war at this point. He is building up his economy. He's artificially supporting the economy. He's boosting it since COVID. Just okay. I'm not saying China doesn't want to rule the world. I'm just saying that realistically. And then, of course, first Usha Vance put a video, which was sort of like AI dubbed. Maybe they didn't like her accent. I don't know. But anyway, she said, we're going to watch dogs races in Greenland. And then Vance comes in, and because of the signal gate, he needs new PR. Let's go to Greenland. The U.S. representatives start knocking on every business's door and people's door in Greenland. Can you welcome Usha Vance and J.D. Vance? And everybody says no. So ultimately, they just go for 3 hours to the U.S. base in Greenland that is far north from the capital of Greenland. Right? So they don't see any people. They don't see any Greenlanders. They talk about what they know best is for Greenland, but they haven't talked to any person who is actually from Greenland or Denmark. They just are contained within the base, surrounded by American soldiers. This is Vance arriving in Greenland at the base. Check out his first comment.
Hey guys, how we doing? Please, at ease. At ease. Good Lord, sit down and eat. Sit down and eat. Don't let the Vice President stop you guys from getting your chow here. How we doing? It's cold as shit here. Nobody told me. Well, thank you all for everything you do, and thanks for having us. So please sit down, guys. Please, please. I want you to eat your food. Usha and I are thrilled to be here.
Yeah, and he sat and ate their food. And then he spoke about Greenland. Take a look.
The president said today that we have to have Greenland. By being here today, are you also conveying that message that the U.S. is very serious in its desire to acquire Greenland?
Well, the president said we have to have Greenland, and I think that we do have to be more serious about the security of Greenland. We can't just ignore this place. We can't just ignore the president's desires, but most importantly, we can't ignore what I said earlier, which is the Russian.
We can't ignore president's desires. If you're single, tell it to the guy you're going to be married tomorrow. Jokes aside, this is the foreign minister of Denmark addressing this type of language and rhetoric. Take a look.
I have a message for our American friends and all others who are listening. Much is being said these days. Many accusations and many allegations have been made. And of course, we are open to criticism. But let me be completely honest. We do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered. This is not how you speak to your close allies. And I still consider Denmark and the United States to be close allies. We respect that the United States needs a greater military presence in Greenland, as Vice President Vance mentioned this evening. We, Denmark and Greenland, are very much open to discussing this with you, with an open mind. We still have the defense agreement from 1951. It offers ample opportunity for the United States to have a much stronger military presence in Greenland. If that is what you wish, then let us discuss it. In 1945, the United States had 17 bases and military installations in Greenland with thousands of soldiers. Today, only one American base is left, the one Vice President Vance visited a few hours ago, and something like 200 soldiers. We can do more, much more, within the framework we have today. Let us make use of that, and let us do it together. The Vice President also stated that Denmark has done too little in the Arctic. The other day, he said that the United States has also done too little. And the fact is that we have all been harvesting the peace dividend. We all acted on the assumption that the Arctic was and should be a low-tension area. But that time is over. Status quo is not an option. And that is why we have stepped up as well. With $1 billion investment in Arctic security just a few weeks ago, an investment that will provide more drones, more ships, more personnel, and more will come later this year. And let us not forget, Greenland is part of NATO. Today, NATO's security guarantee also covers Greenland. I have a message.
And James, I saw your comment on NATO Article 5. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Now, the Coalition of the Willing also met in Paris on Thursday. This is European countries without Hungary and Slovakia and all those pro-Putin people, but plus Canada. And so this is a video of them gathering. Take a look.
Mais bon, hein. Mais bon. Let's go to work.
And then, speaking of Greenland, the Denmark had a word. Take a look.
Europe is at a crossroad. We are now facing the greatest challenges since the 1940s. And now it's time to rearm. We need to do it with strength, and we need to do it fast. Europe must be able to defend itself. And we need to take action now to ensure this. With the actions we are taking now, we are building a new Europe. We're building a stronger Europe, a free Europe, and we are building our Europe.
And James, let's come to your comment here. Can you talk more about Article 5 and possible veto? I still don't understand how all this works if we did try to annex Greenland. So, great question. Now, with Article 5, if you were to read it, and I shared it on multiple sources and in the newsletters before. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to newsletters, let me put up a banner while I'm talking. It's free. Go get your actual news. Monday through Friday, US and global. Saturday, Canada edition. Sunday, come up live and we talk about it. So, Article 5, if you read it, it means if there is an attack on an ally, on a member of NATO, all other members have to declare that, yes, it is an attack and agree on a response. Here's the question, and that's why I asked the vice head of NATO, and he didn't want to talk about it. Then Rutte's team, and he said he wants to stay out of it. He also was at the Oval Office, and when Trump started talking about acquiring Greenland, he said, he was asked to comment. He's like, I don't want to drag NATO into it. I don't want to talk about it, but I do understand they have security concerns. So the question with the Article 5 is, if it is a member versus member, there is no law in it. If there was a law to say that if one member is an aggressor against the other member, all other members without the aggressor would have to agree, yada, yada, yada. But it doesn't say it. It says all members have to say it's an attack. This is your first veto where US will say we're doing it because of our national security concerns. We're not attacking Greenland, we're protecting us. Think about what Putin tells you that he kills Ukrainians. He's doing it to defend himself from NATO, right? It's illegal, but second, agree that it is an aggression. That's where you have your first problem. Second problem, agree on the same response. What, US will agree to everybody else to combat them? No. So my point is, Rutte is also very pro-Russian, very pro-Trump. Rutte was in power for 14 years. He was prime minister, started left, went to the right. He did anything just to stay in power. Read about him, you'll understand. My point is, count on the coalition of the willing. And now remember what I said in the beginning, where Carney said we are ending our military reliance on the United States. That's the point. Canada goes towards European, I wouldn't even say European Union because it has Hungary and Slovakia and all this stuff in it. And Switzerland that is neutral because it holds everybody's money. Anyway, in Austria is also questionable. So coalition of the willing, that is who, if shit, hits the fan, who will protect Greenland, who will protect Canada. And I would say if it comes to Canada, it's Finland, Sweden. If it comes to Greenland, of course, it's Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, UK also is part of it. So that's what I would say. Hope it answers it. But I wanted to mention something else. We often talk about, Greenland and Canada as a big loss for us diplomatically, that we're, countries are not going to trust us. Carney is not trusting us. The Prime Minister of Denmark is not trusting us. People are speaking out. Starmer in the UK says the same thing. Scholz in Germany and Merz, the new one, says the same thing and all that. Ursula von der Leyen, the head of European Commission, says the same thing. Now, We never talk about the people. And that is the biggest and the most embarrassing loss of trust. It's the personal loss here. Leaders are elected to represent the interest of their country. They're diplomats when it's needed, like the Finnish guy, I'm going to show it to you, went to play golf with Trump for 7 hours. When it's needed, they do what's needed. They're diplomats, it's their job. But the people. What Trump did, he did inherit a well-oiled machine. Very stable financially, very strong in our relationships that are based on longevity and trust. That trust is what helped us survive the first Trump presidency. But this trust is now violated. And people, that's why when we do travel, and yeah, you can slap a Canadian flag on your luggage as much as you want, but once you say a word about, we know where you come from, or at least Canadians know where you come from. So my point is, the personal trust, that is what the loss of such, that's what we will feel when we will travel, when we will call somebody because it's a business deal. And maybe, Joe Doe in London was always wonderful to give you the best deal, but now suddenly they're not going to be that friendly and all that stuff. Plus the tariffs, plus all of it. And yes, we will be identified with this administration. Why? Because we don't speak up. Yeah, people are burning Teslas. Hey, it happens all over the world. Germans are leading this. Yeah, people get arrested. Yeah. We're not speaking against it. How many messages, how many comments? Oh my God, guys, it's time to go outside. It's time to protest. Where are our Democratic leaders? Where are our Democratic leaders? So what I'm telling you, you don't need to exit your apartment or go somewhere and protest. Post things on socials. Say it. Comment. We owe this to our international friends and allies. We owe it to Canadians. We owe it to Greenlanders. We owe it to folks in Denmark. We owe it to them to say that, look, I do not support this. I support this relation. Stop talking about this administration that has put us in the bubble where we're constantly talking about them. They're producing news. And you react to the news, which just feeds their bubble constantly. We're just talking about them. Put information out as to, you're supporting, you in the US, you support Canadian products, you bought this. This is great. Oh my God, never tried it. Guys, look fantastic. Show that we are different. Because if we're silent, then we're same. When we're silent, from the outside, it looks like you're agreeing. And if you're agreeing, you're supporting. 2 lessons, if anything, you learned from this. I'm not done yet. But first, you are in charge of the algorithm. Tap the three dots on any platform, say, not interested, spam, delete, block. I'm not interested in seeing this. You control the algorithm that will be fed to you. If you ever, shopped, somebody was engaged and then you click on things about people getting engaged and then suddenly you see only engagement rings, right? Algorithm brings you what you're interested in. If you're interested in weight loss, you clicked on something, you searched something, suddenly, woo! Have you ever shopped for boots? You click on an ad, everything will be boots. Same is for your political information. You are in charge. And second, speak up. Share, speak up, support. We owe it to our friends. Otherwise, you're same. Sorry, it's same. And we owe it. And that will be really questioned for decades because the country that, I'm an immigrant. I know that for me, America was the country of opportunity. It's the melting pot. It's so international. I grew up in Germany where even though I won championships for Germany, I was told you will never be German nor your kids and whatnot because, you're from Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Here, I felt home in New York. Everybody's different. Everybody has an accent. It's fantastic. And now we're changing. And so what others will do, they will question, was America ever a democracy? Was it ever this liberal and welcoming? Or was it just a good PR because the Hollywood movies were so fantastic? That's the question. We're on day 69. Speak up as long as you can. Okay, so some latest news. Let's dig into the mega blah blah. So they're going into some few posts. So latest news. Hegseth brought his wife into sensitive meetings now on the trip. She's a former Fox News producer, so that's another violation. Also, Hegseth now hired his younger brother. He's serving in the key role inside the Pentagon. The brother has a resume that is publicly available. He's well, as you see here, his past experience includes founding his own podcast production company, Embassy and Third, and working on social media. He also worked for when Hegseth was CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, a nonprofit that fell into financial difficulty during his time there. The brother was paid $108,000 for media relations. Now, if you wonder what he does now, he's a senior advisor to Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security and works in the Defense Department. They said, quote, Phil Hegseth, one of a number of talented DHS at the DoD, what is it? He's conducting touch point with U.S. Coast Guard officials on the security Indo-Pacific trip. And so, yes, he went on the trip with Hegseth to Thailand, Philippines, Guam, and Japan. He also traveled to Guantanamo Bay with him. And anyway, so what else do I have for you? Some crazy. Oh, yeah. So NATO, God forbid. MAGA now suddenly thinks that British flag resembles Confederate flag. Also in Florida, they are voting on eliminating working time restrictions for 14-year-olds to work overnight, for teens to work overnight on school days, and to end guaranteed meal breaks for ages 16 and 17. Also, this is heavily populated to say that we thought that Russia and China were our enemies, but actually this is these people. And then the video zooms out and it's actually the coalition of the willing. And then Stephen Miller just says that we are point blank invaded and occupied by entire neighborhoods, and we're conquered by illegals, and we are in this weird state of affairs. Now, the Twitter-in-chief, President Trump, said he is working together with fantastic and very talented executive residence staff to essentially remove the southern magnolia tree from the entrance at the White House. This tree was planted by President Andrew Jackson. He says it's some type of danger and he will replace it with something else. I emailed the White House Historic Association and we'll see if they can confirm the state of the tree, that it has to be removed. And then essentially they're advocating for impeaching the judges that do not go along and cause issues for Doge's team and essentially for Trump. Meanwhile, in Greenland, the new Greenland premier said that he will not allow U.S. to take over Greenland. He said, we do not belong to anyone. We determine our future. And he said that today, as you see, on March 30th. What else do I have for you? Yeah, so Honda just laid off 9,000 American workers. GM and others will soon follow. This is a response to the tariffs that have been announced. But speaking of tariffs, this is the most recent response from the White House on the tariffs on the cars to increase in price. Take a look.
So President Trump has a long-run vision of a golden age of America, and we're working really, really hard to get it out there in time. But I can't give you any forward-looking guidance on what's going to happen this week. The president has got a heck of a lot of analysis before him, and he's going to make the right choice, I'm sure.
It's essentially saying, like, I don't care that the cars will go up in price. I didn't plan on buying a new one anyway. Okay. Well, let's talk about latest quick news. So this is what I haven't reported between Friday and today. So Republican President Trump said on Sunday he was not joking about seeking a third presidential term, which is actually forbidden by the Constitution, but that it was too early to think about doing so. You're 69 days into a 4-year term. You're 78. They say that essentially they want to use this clause where it says that a president cannot be elected more than 2 times, and then for J.D. Vance to win the election, and he quits and gives it to Trump. That's the whole sort of theory that is sort of put out there. Let's take it day by day. We have so much shit to worry about that the last thing that I would worry about is Trump running in 2028. Let's us survive, first and foremost. And second, let's see who's who. Okay? So, Trump also said on Saturday he did not warn car industry executives against raising prices as tariffs on foreign-made autos come into force, telling NBC that he couldn't care less. Okay. The FDA's top vaccine official, Dr. Peter Marks, resigned and said that Health Secretary RFK Jr.'s stance on vaccines posed a danger to the public. Then the FCC chairman, Kerry, I think it's Kevin Kerry, issued an update. He said that we have to find an alternative for GPS. Is that Starlink related? That is just my question. Is that Starlink related? Do you really want everything to run on Starlink? Because since White House switched on to Starlink, literally no briefing from the Oval Office is running smoothly. Because as people who work with Starlink explained to me that any phone call takes actually the priority when you are running everything on Starlink. Just repeating what I've heard. Okay. Utah became the first state to ban fluoride in public drinking water. Kennedy has called for this to be removed from water nationwide. Kennedy said that the states could bar people from using federal food assistance to pay for soft drinks. So if you're using your assistance money to buy anything, you better not buy Coke, because the president has a Coke button. Every single Coke will go to the White House. Bad for you, good for him. Yeah? Okay. Now, the S&P 500 index dipped as investors weighed new and hotter than expected inflation data and braced for more tariffs. Rescue crews are working frantically to extract a U.S. Army vehicle carrying 4 American soldiers that disappeared in a waterlogged forest in Lithuania. So there was training, NATO training in Lithuania near the Belarus border. 4 American soldiers have vanished. They have disappeared. Then they found essentially they were driving on the road, and the road somehow led to lake or gutter or whatever, and so they drowned. Essentially, the vehicle drowned, and they are guesstimated to be in the vehicle and hence perished. But it was confirmed by Chief of NATO. Then he said, "I'm actually taking my words back until we find the bodies. We'll do." Then the rumor was the bodies were found. Then it's not. So either they were found and U.S. does not want to talk about soldiers dying in Lithuania near Belarus, or have any connection with Russia, or question even Russia, what the hell happened on that border, since Belarus has Russian forces there. Or is there a truth? What I can tell you is perhaps we will never know. But here is Hegseth finally addressing this in some way in Japan.
At the Defense Department, our heart and prayers continue in an unrelated but powerful matter, continue to go out to the soldiers and families impacted by the ongoing recovery operation for 4 missing U.S. soldiers in Lithuania. We continue to monitor the situation very closely, and it's a reminder.
It was a week later, and also the tie and the thing here, it's all I'm seeing here. Look.
At the Defense Department, our heart
doesn't match, and that's all I had to watch this twice to even focus. I'm like, it has stripes. Maybe that's the connection. I don't know. Anyway, so in other news, massive 7.7 earthquake rocked Thailand, and also parts of China, Myanmar, and Southeast Asia, essentially. And they had the second largest city had 6.4 aftershock that hit minutes later. And Bangkok felt it 600 miles away. Skyscrapers have collapsed. So it was the 7.7 earthquake, and then also the 6.4 aftershock that did happen later. And there is this very famous video with the skyscraper and the water pouring down out of the pool. But there's two videos, two perspectives that weren't this much shared online in the media, and that's what I wanted to show you. Here are two folks actually chilling in that swimming pool that later poured down on the street. Take a look. Okay, here it comes. Oh, it has no sound. Okay, so they're chilling in the pool, and take a look what happens just a second later. They will manage to escape. Otherwise, I will not be showing this to you. But yeah, just a second. Yeah. So essentially, they're escaping. The woman runs for her life. The guy's looking for his phone. And then all those mattresses or whatever that was, everything just falls down on the street. So a tricky situation to be in. But here is somebody who was inside the building, and that's her perspective.
I'm currently experiencing an earthquake on the 27th floor. I might die. Can you see this? Can you see this? Oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. That's the pool water coming down from the rooftop. That is what just happened. I'm putting on clothes. My family, I love you. I love you so much.
So gladly she did not die. But now the death toll of the earthquake surpassed 1,600 people. 3,408 more are injured, and those were the recent numbers, but those are constantly changing, and experts expect further steep rises in the numbers of people who have been hurt or unfortunately died. Now, international aid has started arriving, not from United States. Trump said the aid will come, but those who actually are supposed to provide aid say that the system has collapsed. We don't really have the system. But if you have other resources to show that the aid is there, maybe you are in Thailand or anywhere, tell me. I gladly will report it. But the problem is that the aid cannot get to where it needs to be. The years-long civil war has fractured Myanmar. Did I pronounce it correctly? Because I pronounce everything German way. So if you question like things I pronounce, this is the German way. So I have to always Google. Anyway, so the point is that the aid cannot even get there because they have so much debris that it's more than what actually was the result of the damage, caused by the earthquake. And so hence the video that I posted yesterday where people said, oh, it's fake. There's so much debris. Yeah, learn something. Okay, so you can understand what's real, what's not. Now, so what else can I say? Yeah, so Israel launched airstrikes near Beirut after rockets were fired at northern Israel from Lebanese territory. Both Israel and Hezbollah said they were still committed to upholding a ceasefire that took effect last year. So this is the same story as you have with Putin. He is still having some type of ceasefire. Well, he's not hitting electric grid, but he's killing civilians daily. So it's the same thing here. Like, you're going to Lebanon, you're just having strikes, but you're still sort of having the ceasefire. Where? Anyway, so the Taliban freed an American woman detained in Afghanistan. Remember last week they have freed a guy, a gentleman who has arrived then in the U.S. He's from Georgia. And now they have freed a woman. In return, U.S., and that this was confirmed by U.S. ambassador. Now, the move comes days after U.S. removed bounties on 3 Taliban officials and 3 main officials in Taliban. So whenever, the administration criticizes Biden administration and the treatment of Afghanistan, you're lifting bounties of the 3 main people who did the worst. Then President Trump threatened Iran on Sunday, today, with bombing and secondary tariffs. If you're bombing them, you also do tariffs. If Tehran did not come to an agreement with Washington over its nuclear program. In Trump's first remarks since Iran rejected direct negotiations with Washington last week, he told NBC News that U.S. and Iranian officials were talking but did not elaborate. Now, the leader of Iran, Khamenei, actually yesterday posted across social media that he said, well, maybe international community should rethink the idea of United States hosting nuclear weapons since they do not even have human rights any longer. I know it's very rich coming from Iran, but here we are. Now, Syria's good news, bad news. Good news. Syria's interim president announced a caretaker government that includes popular activists and members of minorities, but kept his close allies in key positions. But at least they do welcome people of also different religions at this point. Now, bad news. Remember how much Russia relied, or maybe you weren't really paying attention to it, but here's a little map. Take a look. So this is Syria. This is Russia on top. Then this level is Syria, right? The big dot. And then you have Africa. So the 2 bases in Syria, you have the Navy base and you have the Air Force base in Syria. Those 2 are critical for Russia to trade and support their activities, to trade with and support their activities with Africa. So they do have this new African forces, which is actually the, remember you had Prigozhin, who had, I forgot what it was the name. I have it in my head. Anyway, he had this extra forces that went to Ukraine and were like hammering people on the head. And then he died, and then they took the... that's with Mar. Anyway, I'll remember in just a second. So anyway, they took those forces that are now without Prigozhin and they put them to Africa. Those are the Russian African forces. It's pretty much they're killing people and protecting Putin's resources. He has gold stored there. He has diamonds and whatever his wealth is in, he's storing it in Africa. This is a known fact, and so this forces are protecting it. Now, these bases are critical for Russia because that's where they regulate it, right? That's where they go to Syria, they coordinate from Syria, then go to different as you see here, to different spots in Africa. Now, he also, what Putin did, he used this Air Force base and Navy base in Syria as the main source or the main point where Russia would supply military aid to support Assad's regime that fell in Syria. Since the regime fell and Assad fled to Moscow, now, Putin was pushed out. And what President Biden did at that point, he negotiated with the new Syrian government that took over that they will continue get aid and help from United States if they push Russia out and do not allow Russia to maintain those bases. For that reason, Russia had to withdraw. They took all the military equipment. It was very embarrassing. And they pulled it out of Syria and they put it back to Africa. Having said that, here's the news. Syrian authorities have received a new list of demands from the United States to ease sanctions on Russia's regime. Unlike the Biden administration, Trump administration is no longer insisting on withdrawal of Russian troops from Tartus, that's the Air Force, and Khamenem, Navy base, which remain key points for Russia's trade and activity in Africa. So remember how Rubio was talking about lifting sanctions, and Bessent, our Treasury, we're talking about lifting sanctions on Russia. Now pushing also Europe to lift the sanctions, and Europe, Macron, and meeting with the coalition of the willing, they decided, he said it in an interview, and then they wrote it out in a statement that the sanctions will be lifted when Russia is respecting Ukraine's 1991 sovereign borders. So, but now they're pushing also in Syria, pushing Russia's agenda in Syria. So now the British, this is weird. Maybe if you're from the UK, you can explain this to me, but I do have a video. So the British Sentencing Council yesterday has decided that starting Tuesday, white men will be sentenced to longer prison sentences than women and ethnic minorities, which is an interesting take. So here's a video that explains it way better than even if I try. Take a look.
Well, I'm disappointed in this response, and the Lord Chancellor is obviously continuing to engage on this, and we're considering our response. And, you know, all options are on the table, but I am disappointed at this outcome, and now we'll have to consider what we do as a result.
Well, let's cross live to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Now, it seems to me, Chopper, that the politicians want the Sentencing Council to change their direction here, but they're not willing to legislate to do so. They're in a bit of a war of words here.
Yes, they are. And hi, Charlie. Hi, Nana. Welcome to Huddersfield, where it's pretty cold up here. I've been talking to the Prime Minister moments ago. I asked him twice, will you just scrap the Sentencing Council? It's a quango. You have the power to scrap it. What you don't do is have the power to overrule it. And frankly, the judges now are looking back at the elected politicians here, both Sir Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, who is a Justice Secretary, and saying, I'm afraid to say, these are what's going to happen. And from Tuesday, this is what will happen. Judges will prepare pre-sentencing reports where necessary. And if someone is of ethnic, cultural or faith minority, or a young person under 25, or a woman or a pregnant woman, they will get a special sentencing report. Normally those pre-sentencing reports do mean that the sentence is mitigated, that time is taken off for a jail term, for example. What it means, though, is that white men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges from Tuesday compared to other groups in society. And that is unacceptable to the Prime Minister. He said in terms there, I said twice, will you scrap the Sentencing Council? He said all options are open. Shabana,
I think they phrase it incorrectly. It's not like women and minorities are going to get less sentence. It's like the men are getting the normal sentencing and others will have less as an exception, which up to you guys to decide. I'm just thinking phrasing is a bit interesting. Every week in America is worse than the last, says Lynn. Yes. Wonder what news we're going to get. I have a feeling. Yes, Penny. Wagner. Tony said Wagner. Thank you. Thank you. Wagner Group. Exactly. See, my brain is fried. It's Sunday. Okay. So other thing, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, of course, was in Japan finishing his trip. And then he said that it's indispensable for tackling Chinese aggression. There's no aggression. That's what I'm telling you. Okay, and said that implementing of a plan to upgrade the U.S. military command in the country would get underway. So essentially in Japan, they're putting U.S. forces and Japanese forces as one. Now, this was put in motion in 2024 by President Biden. So just saying. Other thing that I wanted to fact check because it's everywhere. So yesterday, the president of Finland was playing golf with with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago here. And then Trump put out a statement that they discussed this and that, and then he will purchase icebreakers from Finland. And this will be so wonderful. And now he will purchase everything from Finland, icebreakers from Finland, which is really weird. And I want to show you my notes from the National Security Council briefing at the White House and you're going to see here here are my notes exactly on the icebreakers. So NSC on July 10th at 3:20 p.m. Eastern. Embargo was in effect till 10 a.m. the next day on 7/11. And so Michael Feldman, he was, the one briefing us. He said that it is a one pact. They call it Ice Pact between Canada, Finland, and USA. This Ice Pact is all about polar icebreakers. Objective is strategic interest, industrial capacity. And so enhanced information sharing, and essentially what the question here, or what's in question was here, is that US has the intel and Finland and Canada have the capacity to build those icebreakers, okay? Nobody has them to go to Finland and buy them. That's why they put the pact together, okay, in July. And this went in effect right away after this briefing. And so the interest was more jobs for US and build American ships, right? So essentially it's intelligence sharing. If you want to dive more into detail, it's US has intelligence to build a ship. Parts of it will be built in Finland. Parts of it will be built in Canada. Then it is assembled in the US, yada, yada, yada. It was a whole structure, and it is currently in the effect. Now, what's interesting, though, is that, so this is, of course, geostrategic importance, combat Russia's aggression. See? And that's what I want to for you to pay attention to. Combat Russia's aggression, right? And limit China's influence. Those are very, very strategic points here. This was Biden administration. Limit Russia's aggression, or withstand Russia's aggression, and limit China's influence. That's exactly how we need to phrase it. Yes, China has influence, because where U.S. does not invest anymore, they go and invest. Where, U.S. is withdrawing, they're going there. So they're taking over the influence. But the aggression and the threat is coming from Russia. But now we're uniting with this. So it will be signed by end of the year, start production, add more partners. Okay, so now this is an interesting thing. So what they told us, that Russia has at that point had 40 icebreakers. PRC signed. PRC signed the collaboration, conducted training. In 2018, PRC declared themselves as near-Arctic state. Okay, it's supposed to say actually China. It's the spell check. So essentially 40 icebreakers are in Russia. And then China essentially signed a collaboration with Russia, and they're creating together those icebreakers. And they also, for that, China has declared itself a near-Arctic state in 2018. Okay, so currently U.S. at that point had 2 icebreakers that are old, and Europe had about 7. Now, altogether, alliance needs 70 to 90 ships to withhold an aggression. Initial investment, $2 billion allocated already. Full fleet would be $10 billion. Workforce exchange, know-how exchange. This is between US, Canada, and Finland. And building an industry for other partners, allies to take advantage of. So essentially, there will be then Canada, US, Finland will be building the ships, icebreakers together that other NATO allies and whatnot can buy. And so now we're getting more money, okay? We needed 70 to 90 icebreakers. We had 2. That was questionable if they functioned. Europe had 7. We have this pact where we produce this together. And now today, on March 30th, you're going to tell me we're buying icebreakers from Finland? We're here in national security thing. We said that we have aggression from Russia and we have the influence from China, and they both collaborate on icebreakers. Now, is Greenland making sense to you now? Good. So now Zelensky spoke to Finnish president today after this whole thing, and the Finnish president said that he shared the details of his meeting with Trump. Zelensky emphasized that it's Russia that is looking for excuses to drag out this war, and that there should be an appropriate response to this from the US, EU, and all global partners who seek peace. So, also, Trump said on Sunday he was pissed off at Vladimir Putin and will impose secondary tariffs of 25 to 50% on buyers of Russian oil if he feels Moscow is blocking his efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Now, this is saving face, right? Because Finnish president told him that Putin is pulling you over the table, and so Trump issued this saying to kind of save his face. Watch the deeds, not the tweets. So, in Russia, Russian priest Tkachov told how family dinners should look like. I have a video. You're going to watch the translation in Russian. Watch it. And mind you, while you watch it, also know that there is no law prohibiting domestic violence against women in Russia. It's allowed. If you beat up your wife, it means you love her. So you can't go to jail for beating up your loved wife or hated wife, whatever. It just doesn't exist. So while you watch it, take a look.
Мы развратили детей и пихаете в них первый кусок. Сейчас проверьте себя. Сели за стол. За столом, допустим, бабка сварила борщ. За столом сидит ее дочка и ее муж. Зять, то есть, той бабки, что борщ сварила. И дети сидят за столом. Наливается первая тарелка. Кому бабка наливает первую тарелку? Если детям, то это преступница. Если дочке, то она дважды преступница. Мужу своей дочки, мужчине, сидящему за столом, отцу своих внуков. Первый кусок и первая тарелка. Потом...
In Russia, women eat last. Okay? So you first give it to your husband. Then it's the mother, then the boy, and the girl, if anything, she eats less. Make Russia great again. I mean, see, are we hitting into that time, the barbaric times? If you ever watched any show about the Peter the Great and all that kind of stuff, which is like obnoxious, that's where they are. They're stuck right there. Now, meanwhile, a luxury limousine, reportedly from Russian President Vladimir Putin's official fleet, exploded in Moscow close to FSB, their FBI equivalent, headquarters. Here's the video. Okay, it was reported that Putin was not in it. So the cause of explosion remains under investigation, and it is unclear whether anyone was inside the vehicle. The incident comes amid heightened geopolitical tensions, but there is no proof if that was the reason for it. It also could be false flag, right? It could be Putin doing something to himself to blame Ukraine and to say, how can I have ceasefire? Look, they're trying to kill me. That would be on brand. Allegedly. Also, Russia, Putin ramps up his propaganda. So he said, quote, Zelensky is illegitimate, Ukraine is full of Nazis, and a foreign imposed temporary government is needed. Let's be honest. This isn't about peace. It isn't about negotiating. It's dictating. So, but he will do anything possible together with the help from Washington to pretty much push Zelensky out. Now, on Ukraine, good news is that 5 Ukrainian kids were returned from temporarily occupied territories thanks to Bring Kids Back UA initiative, according to Ombudsman Lubinets. And that's one of them arriving back home. So all the kids that are stolen actually have parents who love them. So now, U.S. presented Ukraine with a torturous deal where essentially, I put the details in it, so it's in your newsletter, go read it. But essentially, U.S. says that they paid $100 billion into supporting Ukraine. Now, let's circle back. U.S. had direct aid, which is about $32 billion, and it had $120 billion in military aid, which was, as a presidential drawdown authority, it was given to State Department to purchase from DoD older equipment to send to Ukraine, and that money was used to purchase rejuvenated or new equipment for Pentagon. Also, Pentagon and DoD have saved on the storage of older equipment and maintenance. So to say that it was $100 billion just like giving cash to Zelensky, not really. But this new minerals deal or whatever, it goes way beyond minerals. Is anything Ukraine wants to build or produce will actually belong to US. US can decide what they want to do with that. They can also decide if they want to monetize it or not, if they want to get other partners or not. Ukraine cannot get out of that agreement. They cannot decide anything. And also, Ukraine is not getting anything, but it will pay out everything, $100 billion to US plus 4%. So here's Zelensky's response to that. You will have to read the subtitles.
Ми офіційно сьогодні отримали варіант або пропозиції Сполучених Штатів Америки. Друге, якийсь час назад цю угоду треба порівняти, чи це та сама угода, або щось інше. Ми порівняємо це. Отримала наш віце-прем'єр-міністр Юлія Свириденко у двосторонньому контакті з паном секретарем Трежері, з паном Бесентом. Я їй поставив запитання деякі. Вона сказала, дуже складно коментувати. Це зовсім інший документ. Там багато всього, про що не йшлося. А також з'явились деякі речі, які, ну, скажімо так, раніше сторони відкидували вже. Якщо питання боргів, ну якщо піднімається там це питання, ми не будемо сприймати борги, як я і казав. Принаймні ми говоримо про минуле. Якщо, знов-таки я повторюсь, якщо буде матись на увазі якісь перспективи, нові пакети підтримки, і тоді Сполучені Штати Америки, напевне, можуть ставити ті чи інші умови, розуміючи, що безкоштовно ця команда нам нічого робити не буде.
Realizing that this team will not do anything for free. Meanwhile, Putin has bombed civilians. There's my birth city of Kharkiv that has been targeted with 12 Shahed drones overnight. Take a look. Ceasefire? There's no ceasefire. Now, what I wanted to say. Okay, so Germans, they actually do something. Raid against Russia. They seized their oil tanker and with oil that was there, installed their own team, and essentially, because it was part of the shadow fleet, they were violating sanctions. It was an illegitimate oil tanker, illegitimately taking oil for sale to ultimately sponsor the Russian aggression against Ukrainians. Also in Germany, there were protests against Tesla. Here is a tweet about it. So Musk's attempts to promote the far-right AfD Nazi party has not gone down well in Germany. In Ottersberg, Germany, another Tesla dealership was torched overnight. And then, of course, we saw Musk then crying on television. Meanwhile, in Turkey, the country is protesting, right? Because somebody who was running against, and quite successfully, could be running against their leader, dictator like Erdogan. This person has been Ekrem İmamoğlu. He is the mayor of Istanbul. He has been arrested to prohibit him from running. And now the mass protests that had 2 million people on the streets, they continue in Turkey in support of him and his release. So take a look. There's the video. Pretty impressive. So, and I'm done. Any questions? Let me know. Good night, James. James is going to bed. Thank you for being here. Psy fan account says, did you see the new information about Signal Chat app? Let me know what is new. That the DOJ was warned not to use it, and they still used it. That was a few days ago. Let me know what's new. Okay. And very, very stuff like a sweet video. I want to finish on this sweet video. So we all like Michael Bublé, right? The songs and all that kind of stuff. And of course, we know he's Canadian. And so he gave an interview where he spoke about what it means to be a Canadian for him, and how he handles this pressure these days. And so this is my last video for today. Take a look.
I'm one of those Canadians that's a little stressed. And of course, our sovereignty means everything to me. Right now, I think it's a great time to focus on why we're so special, why we're so unique, and why people slap Canadian flags on their suitcases when they travel. We're just so damn lovable. I think we're good people. I think we're strong. And the reason that I said yes so quickly is because, number one, I love my country so damn much. I wear the Canadian flag on my heart. I really do. I have everywhere I've gone my whole life. And when people ask me who I am and to explain it, the first thing I say is I'm Canadian.
I just got the White House scheduled for tomorrow. Guess what president is doing at 1 p.m. and at 5:30 p.m.? I'll let you type it. You have to know by now. I mean, there's nothing else. So at 1 p.m. and at 5:30 p.m. I don't know why is it split in two sessions. Maybe it's like a part one, part two. More television, right? More television, more news. You do something at 1, it's being discussed for hours, and then 5:30, and then it takes the evening news cycle. So you see, I told you. If you joined us later, check out the very beginning of this. So I'm done. Let me know what do you think he's doing at 1 and at 5:30. Lynn says, great chat. Thank you. And thank you for being part of it. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for watching and listening and engaging. I really, really appreciate you. Also, if you do read actual news, you will know way more than what I talk about here, because it's once a week. But really, go to honestnetwork.com/newsletter. It's free. Sign up for a newsletter. I cover U.S. and national news, also beyond politics, like more also at business, regular news, videos of the day, posts, social media posts of the day, today in pictures, also today in history, historic data, for every single day, and Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, I have the Canada version. So it's a weekly recap. And then on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we meet here to talk. Okay, so please subscribe. Now, nobody's commenting. Okay, he's signing executive orders at 1 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. tomorrow, which is at this point quite obvious, right? That's what happens. Now, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for finishing this month together with me. Next time we meet, it's April. I hope you have a restful night and peaceful night. Keep your head on a swivel. Remember, you are in control of the algorithm and stuff you consume and that is presented to you. And also, please voice your opinion and support international partners who are very discouraged by us, and stand up for them too. We owe them. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good night.